Sure, you can start.
Good evening and welcome to the second day of Tamil Heritage Trust's Indology Festival 2023. For those of us who joined us yesterday, welcome again. And for those of you who are joining us today, welcome, and we are glad to have you as part of this program. Before we start the Day 2 program, I would very quickly give an introduction of Tamil Heritage Trust and its activities. Tamil Heritage Trust is a volunteer-driven organization primarily based in Chennai, functioning for the last 13 years and doing work in the field of India's rich cultural heritage. We do this through various means. We do this through monthly heritage talks that happen twice every month, on the first Saturday of every month in English, which is an online talk, and the third Saturday of every month, which is in Tamil, which is an in-person and an online talk. The monthly talks are based on wide range of topics pertaining to Indian culture and heritage, and are delivered by both enthusiasts and experts in their fields. We also do a thematic 2-day seminar called the Pechu Kacheri, typically held in the month of December. We have held nearly 10 editions of Pechu Kacheri. The last that we conducted was in December 2022. And that was themed around the Vijayanagara city, a dynasty, and an empire. We also do workshops for the general public. These are workshops on Pallava Grantham, on how to see a museum, temple art appreciation, and so on. We also do annual site seminars where we come together as a group and visit a cultural site, a heritage site around in India, and we prepare ourselves to visit that place by knowing better about that cultural site. Through our program called Alamar Avai, Teachers for Heritage, we work very closely with the teachers in Tamil Nadu and enable them become better ambassadors or cultural ambassadors for heritage within their schools. We also host and institute a few awards. We host the V. Venkaya Epigraphy Award, which we started in 2022. This award is meant to recognize individuals who have done exceptional contributions towards deciphering and discovery of inscriptions, interpretation of inscriptions, and so on. So this is primarily for people who have done excellent work in the field of epigraphy. In the last 3 years, we have also been instituting Tamil Heritage Trust Professor S. Swaminathan Heritage Award. And this is meant to recognize individuals who have done outstanding work towards the preservation, understanding, and dissemination of Indian heritage. We've been instituting this 2020, and very shortly we will be doing this in 2023 as well. If you want to be part of our programs, if you would like to receive notification on our programs, you can do so by writing to us at admin@tamilheritage.in. Your email ID would be noted, and we would be able to provide you notifications of all our future programs. All our programs are also available on YouTube. So if you want to see videos of our past programs, you should be able to go to YouTube, type Tamil Heritage Trust. You can click subscribe on our channel, and you will be able to see, receive notifications of all our programs and future events. All programs, including this one, are available on YouTube. This is our third Indology Festival. We first celebrated this in 2020, and where we had a wide range of topics from Indian prehistory, early history, Indian mathematics, Chola bronzes, temple architecture, and so on. Our second edition happened in 2022, where our theme was the temple builders of medieval India. So we took several dynasties that were ruling India during the 8th and 13th centuries, and we discussed in detail the art, the temples, and the monuments that these dynasties built and are available as cultural sites or heritage sites in India today. This is a third edition, and the title of this Indology Festival is Sagara Sangamam, India and the Sea. India has a long coastline, and it has a very big connection with the sea. Several historical events in the history of India have been connected with the sea. India has had a very rich maritime history. So what we've done, starting yesterday for about 7 days until the 11th of June, we are having 14 distinguished historians, scholars, and authors who will be sharing their insights on the maritime history of India. The program has got various angles to it. There are talks that are based on maritime settlements, coastal settlements, including the first talk for today. There are also talks on how Indian religions like Hinduism and Buddhism spread across the sea. There is also a talk on maritime archaeology, and then there are also talks on the naval histories, expedition of Rajendra Chola, and so on. Right. So there is something that each one of you would get in different aspects or different flavors of maritime history from this program. Yesterday, day one, we had the keynote address by Dr. Himanshu Prabhare, who spoke about commemorating India's maritime history. Followed by that, Mr. Narsaya spoke about the world maritime history with special reference to India. For those of you who missed yesterday's programs, they are available on our YouTube channel. You can go type Tamil Heritage Trust and you can watch those programs on YouTube. Today, first up, we have Dr. Yadubir Singh Rawat, who is going to talk about the Harappan Coastal Settlements and their maritime connections. Like I mentioned yesterday, today we are going to be focusing on the western coast of India, specifically Gujarat. And our first talk is going to be on the Harappan Coastal Settlements. Dr. Yadubir Singh Rawat was Director, Gujarat State Archaeology Museum, Government of Gujarat, and Competent Authority Gujarat. He held this position until 2050. He was the Director in charge of Gujarat State Archives. He is currently a trustee of the Ahmedabad World Heritage City Trust, as well as an expert of the expert committee on the same trust. He carried out conservation of a large number of state protected monuments under the Directorate of Archaeology, Government of Gujarat, during his tenure as the Director of Archaeology. He has been taking part in several excavations for nearly 35 years. Some of them are at Dholavira, a Harappan site in Kutch, Gujarat, Banavali, again a Harappan site in Haryana, Kanmer and Hulas, which are Harappan sites once again. He was also part of the excavation at Ramapuram, a Neolithic, Chalcolithic and Megalithic period site in the Kurnool district of Andhra Pradesh. He has been part of several explorations in various parts of India and has discovered prehistoric paintings, pre-Harappan settlements, a Buddhist sanctuary, and an early historic period settlement. We now welcome Dr. Y.S. Rawat to speak on the Harappan coastal settlements and their maritime connections.
Thank you, sir, for the kind word. I will share my screen now. Thank you very much again for this opportunity and inviting me for this talk, which is actually on the coastal settlements in Gujarat, mainly on that note. The coastal settlement in Gujarat, actually, Gujarat has a long coast, about 1600 kilometers, I think. And it was there from the prehistoric time. It is not the new to actually word. And Gujarat was the very important threshold for the voyagers or the people migrating from the different places of the world to different countries. And that's why Gujarat was in contact of the outer the world from the centuries, from prehistoric time onward. Even the prehistoric men came to Gujarat first, actually, from along the coast, from Africa to Arab, and then finally in India, and then Gujarat also. This is the background of the Gujarat, why it is so important for the maritime trade and for the maritime activity from prehistoric time. Let's see. Yeah, I am talking about the Harappan civilization, the towns, the coastal town of the Harappan time. As you know, the Harappan civilization is known by the Indus Valley civilization, then Harappan civilization, and now also Sindhu Saraswati civilization. These are the terms actually being used for the to describe this civilization, and it is a vast land mass from the Godavari to Afghanistan, and from the Makran coast to this Ganga Valley, Upper Ganga Valley. This is actually very old civilization, one of the great civilization of the world, 4 great civilization of the world. And we have got Mesopotamia, Egypt, and China civilization, which are more or less contemporary. And then it has actually yielded a lot of script is available, seals are available, ceilings, writing material is there, but it is yet to be deciphered. That is the biggest challenge for the scholars to. Then only I think we can say definitely with certainty who are the people who actually authored this civilization. And because there is a long background for this civilization to the beginning of this civilization, and around 2600 BC, it emerged as a full-fledged urban culture or urban civilization, and continued until 1900 BC. That is the highest point of this civilization, and around 1900 BC, again, there is a decline, maybe due to some environmental region, climate, and other things. And then we have got the post-urban or post-Harappan times. And this was spread over the 1 million square kilometer, a vast geography that you can say the Harappan geography of the Indian subcontinent. And the Gujarat was on the southern part of it. That is the southern extension, which reach up to the Godavari region later on. And at present, there are more than 2,000 settlements found in the India and Pakistan. That is the Indian subcontinent. And this is the geographical expansion of the sites. Along the major river coming from the Himalayas, from the Sindh, and then you have got the Satluj, Ravi, Chenab, and then we have got the lost river of the India, Saraswati and Drishadvati, which were flowing in the Haryana, Punjab, and Rajasthan. But at present, it is lost, Saraswati. But the sites which were found along those shore of these, in the fertile plain of these rivers, they are actually the witness for this blossoming of this culture. They are there. And in Gujarat, there is a unique scene. Actually, we have got some early urban culture here. They are the pre-Harappan, you can say, or the early Harappan, you can say. They are regional culture within the Gujarat geography, the today's geography of Gujarat. And they actually started before the mature Harappan phase. And we have got the certain zone here. In Gujarat, there are more than 700 sites which has been recorded, documented in all over the Gujarat, particularly in Kutch, Saurashtra, and North Gujarat region. The eastern hilly region of the Aravalli and Vindhya mountain has not yielded any such site as yet. That maybe in future we may get some site there. Out of these 700 sites, we have got 44. We have identified 44 Harappan or Harappan affluent sites, which are located on the coast, in the coastal region. Coast means I am talking about the ancient coast, not today's coast, because the Great Run, Little Run of Kutch, and the Gulf of Kutch, they all become part of the coast of the Gujarat. At least during Harappan time, they were active coast, and that is actually proved by the location of the mature Harappan sites along those coasts. And in Kutch, we have got 19 sites, which are actually on the shore of the Great Run of Kutch. which is a dried a marshy land in Kutch, that I will be coming later on. And in Saurashtra coast, we have got 25 coastal settlements. But interestingly, on the out of these actually coastal town, there are 9 very important settlements which have yielded a lot of actually the material which reflects upon the Harappan craftsmanship, industrial activities, and trade. That actually say about the why the Harappans, the Harappan built those fort along those shores. That you will come later on. And these sites have yielded most of the valuable antiquity reflecting on a variety of industrial activities of the Harappan time. This is the distribution of the Harappan sites in Gujarat. These all are the red dots you can see along the Arabian coast here. This is the Arabian coast. This is the mainland Gujarat coast, Bharuch, Surat area. And then we have got this Gulf of Kutch, which is dividing this Saurashtra and Kutch region. And then this is the Great Run of Kutch. This blue span is the expansion is the Great Run of Kutch. And there are so many small islands. And in one of the islands, this is the Khadir Island, we have got the largest site of Dholavira. That is just very close to the border, today's border of India and Pakistan, but nearer to Sindh, we can say. And then along these coasts, we have identified these 9 sites that I am touching upon. They are the important. There are actually fortified settlement in the other area, in the mainland, also inside in the Kutch or in Saurashtra. But major settlements are on the coast, and those are on the Gulf of the Kutch and the Run of the Kutch. And if you start from the Kori Creek, that is the western part where you can, if you are coming from Mesopotamia, that will become the first point to enter the Indus civilization of Gujarat. Kori Creek, the westernmost creek on the border of India and Pakistan. And then that creek entered into the Great Run of Kutch. And there we have found the major site, Kotada Junikuran and Kotada Dholavira. These are actually the site. This is the Black Hill of the Kutch, and this is the Great Run of Kutch in the background, this one. And then this is the site here, Kotada Junikuran. It is just actually have approximately some 6 to 7 meters above this level of the run. This is actually now the run actually starts from here and it continues up to the 40 kilometers towards Pakistan, and there is the border, Indian and Pakistan border. And this is one major site. It has got also 3 divisions. It is excavated by ASI, and it's actually around 12 hectare fortified and 7 meter deposit. It has actually yielded all the objects of mature Harappan civilization, which actually we identify with the Harappan, that we have got the cell, terracotta, metal, semi-precious stone, statite, seals, fish hook, and other objects. They all are actually found from here and seems to be one of the producer of the many of these objects at the site. Then from here, further west, from east, from west we enter we are coming to east. Further east, we have got the Dholavira, the largest Harappan site. It is actually largest in India, second largest in India. First is the Rakhigadi, and it actually in area wise it is around 100 hectares. The fortified area is some 48 hectares, and beyond that there are so many units, some burials, some actually settlement area, and that way then quarry or area. So that way it actually amounts to some 100 hectares. And the town is divided actually in 3 divisions at present. The total what I am talking about, the 3 divisions were actually in the fully developed time, it started with a humble beginning of a small town, and then it actually became bipartite, and finally three division. And then similarly, there is a story of the decline. And the citadel and middle town, they were the main actually town which were actually built first. They are actually provided their own fortification. They have actually been provided some extra fortification. And to cover the lower town, there is the general town wall. This, and then there is a well-planned water harvesting system to cater the need of the people in Dholavira. The climatic condition at present is very harsh. There is very less rain. But being an island, during those time, they required a lot of water. For that, there is a well-planned system of water storage and water harvesting. This is the actually aerial view of the Dholavira. This is such a large, huge site. You can see this is the Citadel Mount here. And then in the north of Citadel Town, we have a middle town. It is going beyond this slide's limit. And then in the east, we have got lower town. Citadel is surrounded by the large reservoir, water reservoir. There is in the south, there is a river, Manhar. In north, there is a river, Mansar. And the Manhar are actually feeding these tanks, huge tanks that I will be showing later on. And then you can see this was the first town established here, the first period town. It expanded towards east and north in the second stage, and in third stage it was made actually three divisions. The lower town was added. This is the settlement here. This is the citadel. You can see the north gate. In between there is a vast open land, which is actually a multi-purpose ground or a arena or a Rangbhumi, you can see. And this actually has provided the evidence for that purpose. We have excavated up to the ground level and found the well-rammed floor, earth floor. And there are the series of post holes, northeast, north-south, and east-west. That actually the local people say it is a bazaar, Putada Bazaar. Bazaar, why this term actually is being used in such a remote area, it is actually very difficult to understand. But somewhere this is in the memory of people, this was used as a bazaar. But Harappan time also, we have got evidence it was being used for the organizing the festivals, bazaars, and all these things. And you can see the sitting arrangement also there. And these are the reservoir, very big reservoir, about some 70 meter long and 30 meter wide, and some 8.50 meter deep. And then all these reservoirs, you can see they are actually feeding each other from northeast to southwest by the gravitational force. One tank is filled, it is actually overflow, and that is going to another, and then another to next one. Then Dholavira, this is the site of Dholavira. This is the tip of the western tip of the Khadir Bait. Khadir Bait is actually an island of 32 kilometers long and about 12 meters wide. And this is the Dholavira site, which is visible even then, before excavation, it was visible on the satellite imagery. And in this north of this Dholavira, it is about some 4 kilometers from this Dholavira. There in between there is a quarry area from where they were bringing the stone to build their houses, because Dholavira is built with the stone, not at least the cladding of the wall is done by stones. And there is in the northern side of the direction of Dholavira, there is a small creek. It is known as Saran. And this Saran was actually used for this purpose, as a port town. We have actually got some evidences there. You can see it's a small river, and then it is the Ran, Great Ran of Kutch. And it actually forms a estuary with this Ran, because if in the Harappan time, it was filled with water. It was actually containing water because it was some 4 to 5 meter deep. And then this valley, the river valley became a estuary, and they were utilizing it for their maritime activity. And we have got some warehouse also. This kind of them structures are there, and these structures are there. You can see it seems to be one warehouse. This is the southern side of that Saran, and in the north there is the Great Run of Kutch. So these are structure available with several rooms, and this is this is the estuary here. This is the Great Run of Kutch. You can actually go in the estuary from this. There is a small hillock. From just actually around the hillock, you can reach to this estuary, and then there is actually proper structures are built there, and then on the top of this hillock there is a warehouse, and this is actually the plan of the rooms of that building there. And this is the river that run is this side, and you can go and you can actually unload the cargo here, and then they were taking to this region. This is the evidence at present from the run. So then we come further to the Little Run of Kutch, which is further east, and then turn to the south. There we have got 3 sites: Surkotra, Nagwada, and Kanmir. These are actually Surkotra and Dholavira. There is from the run, it is very close, but by road it is long distance. But even then, it was another important settlement. It has come the different slide actually. Okay. Surkotra, this one. This is Surkotra. So this was from Dholavira you reach to this site, this site, which is actually again excavated and protected site. And from here, the run. This is the run in the east of this site, and run is actually some 6 kilometers from this. And there is a nala, a rivulet, this kind of a local river. You can see the vegetation. And according to the excavator, it was a wide depression from the site to the run. And it would have been actually allowed the small boat to the site during the Harappan time. That's why it seems also very important settlement of the coastal settlement of the Harappan time. It has yielded also a upper town, a lower town, some seals, some burials, and all sort of the Harappan material. And this is actually the planning of that Surkotra, a very small settlement. And most of except Dholavira, which is actually 100 hectare, and Junicuran 12, all the settlements are very small. Maybe some 5 hectare, 4 hectare, 10 hectare only, very small. Then we come to the Gulf of Kutch. We are taking a round from. I am actually taking you this route of the Periplus, which Periplus say there is after Sinthus there is a gulf. You enter the gulf towards north, and then go to east, and then go to south, and then come again to around the Kutch. These are the side actually in the southern side. Actually, on the northern shore of the Gulf of Kutch, we have got Sikarpur, Sivakia, and Navina. Out of these, actually only one side, Sikarpur, is excavated. And on the opposite shore, we have got Bagsara, excavated at MS University, Kuntasi by the Deccan College, and Nageshwar again by the MS University. Nageshwar is the present between the Pet Dwarika and Dwarika. It falls in the Okhamandu. It was a very big site, and it yielded a lot of material of the cell material, cell manufacturing. Then from here, I am actually from Surkotra, we go to Kanmir. We go Kanmir. Kanmir is again big settlement on the northern shore of the Little Run of Kutch. you can say the ancient Gulf of Kutch. And this is the actually fortified. You can see the fortification. There are a lot of actually addition due to actually this was the, the seismic zone. This Kutch is very active seismic zone from the Harappan time. These activities continued, and we find the actually those evidence in the construction also. Okay, how they are consolidating the damage and even the repairing the wall. These all evidence are available there. And these are the seals actually Kanmer is very important for the trade point of view, for maritime trade. It is the same sealing, same one, this unicorn and two letters. You have got this one like a stroke and then a human. All three bear the same impression, but the reverse of this seal bears different signatures. That indicate actually this was the same person is actually issuing same thing to three different people or for three different purposes. This is one very interesting thing, and this is from Kanmir. That indicate actually these were engaged in the trade activity, maybe the export or import to the different the Gulf countries. And this is one evidence we found in Kanmir. This was excavated by my department and the Rajasthan University. And then these are the different, again, the seals of the Harappan time. We have got the script on the pottery, and this is a small ass. This is the Asco purple identified. This is the ass. Actually, the depiction of ass on this Harappan seal. And these are this is the how they are making statite beads. Thousands of statite beads we found from Kanmir, and this is the industrial actually kill hearth, you can say, and this kind of activities they are carrying on in those settlements. And this is the in all cases, all settlements are engaged in various activity of making bead, making shell objects, making copper objects, and so on. And this actually then in the historical time, from Kanmir historical period, we found this torpedo jar, which is again actually showing that this site in historical times also was linked with the Mesopotamian region, because this torpedo jar came around 4th century CE. That also indicate the trade actually again after the Harappan, it was actually there was a long gap, but again in historical time it is again revived at the same site which were once occupied by the Harappan. They were again reoccupied during the historical time, and they again became the part of this trade chain. This I have shown Surkota, and then we come to this Sikarpur. Further beyond Kanmir, this is the Sikarpur. This is the again the southwest of Sikarpur, and you can see this is the site here. This is the national highway. It is from the Rajkot to Bhuj. This highway. You cross the Gulf here. This is the Gulf of Kutch. You cross the Gulf, and then you enter the Kutch region, and then just this border of the Kutch and Saurashtra, you have got this huge mound, and you can see the salt manufacturing activities is still going on. And this site actually is linked to the Rana with the small Nala. This is a small river which is going to the Nil. This is one characteristic of all the sites which I am actually talking. They are very close to coast. All are linked with the coastal region through a channel, which was actually functional during the Harappan time. And then they are all just 4 meter to 10 meter elevation, MSL. That is the actually present elevation of these sites. And See, this is the actually this Gulf of Kutch here. This region, Gulf of Kutch, is there. This is the site. You can see this elevated contour. This is the fortification area, and then it has again a lower town. This is a upper town, and then in the east and south you have got lower town, and there they have actually found lot of material. Again, the same Gulf here and this side. Then these are the fortification found there. This was the fortified area, and inside they are carrying all the industrial activity, crafts activity inside the fortified area. Whereas in the outside area, there are not so many things are available. These are the center open court, and these are their structures of the different phases. These are you can see the fortification. This is again consolidated by even it was a plastered wall one time, and this was actually again widened by putting the another wall parallel to it. So these activity you will get in all sites of these coastal site, and it has got all phases. As I told you, that Kutch, the limit of Kutch seems to be the southern limit of the Harappan, of the Sindhi variety, which Apostle say it is a Sindhi Harappan. That is the typical Harappan, which is actually the expansion from the Sindh. And then along this shore line, these are the fortified these fortress who are serving for those people. And beyond that, in the Saurashtra, we have got the local indigenous rural culture, which were actually providing all sort of material to these people. And in actually lieu of that, they were giving some finished good or exchanging finished good of them. That's why all these settlement who are actually functionally of the Indus, mature Indus, they are actually all fortified. And beyond that, there is another different culture which has got a long tradition. And then here is an interesting point. In the actually first two phase, you will get very less actually interaction between these two cultural region. But you come to third phase, the Saurashtrian outnumber the Harappan. This is another interesting point. Actually, what is happening? Actually, how they are actually merging with each other, or either maybe the merchant of the Indus people, they have actually left and then they have taken over. This is again an issue to be researched. And these are you can say the first we have got the classical Harappan, we have got at all these sites. You can go in Kutch also, and in even at Lothal also. And then we have got the Surat, we call it late Surat or Surat Harappan. This Surat element is more than the Harappan, the classical Harappan. So these are actually all the development in the Kutch region. This you will not get in the Saurashtra region. There you will get some traits of Harappan, but basically it is a Surat culture. These are from the Shikarpur. Shikarpur has yielded more sealings. It indicates that there were more import than the export. The sealings actually they are opening the parcel. This is a clay lump, actually like a seal put on a bag or a parcel, which is opened here. That the statics show actually at Shikarpur, they open more baggage, then they send the more actually outside. It means it is coming, the material is coming from somewhere actually, and then they are actually opening it here and then supplying it to further another center, where the same thing is being actually exchanged to other cultures. These are the weights also, the classical weight. These are the gilbits. Actually, they are engaged all in making the manufacturing the beads of semi-precious stone. We have got carnelian, we have got statites, we have got serpentine, we have got the jade sort of thing. And these are the drill bit. Actually, this was the monopoly of Kutch. Of late, actually, the researchers show we have got at Dholavira very big actually quantity of these drills. And you will surprise in Mohenjo-daro or in Harappa, only 3 such drills are reported. It means a trade secret from the Kutchi Harappan, because this material still it is not been identified, and it has been actually now given a name after the Ernest Mackay, and it is known as the Ernestite. This thing. This is very hard actually rock, whether it is a synthetic material or a natural, nobody knows where from it came. But in Kutch, it is found in the large number and maximum from the Kutch. In all sites of Kutch, you are getting such a drill bit. And they were used for the making hole in the semi-precious stone. These are actually the material from the Sikarpur, a very rich site, very small site, but yielding rich material. They are actually all making, manufacturing, and then supply to bigger center. This is again another actually characteristic of the Kutch. This is the ridger slipware. This is actually some of this type of pottery is actually reported from Iran also. But in Kutch, it is actually in the very large scale manufacturing of this pottery. This is very typical. It has got 2 slips actually. They were providing 2 slips over a pot and then combing it with some instrument. And then the inner slip was also visible. That's why it is called ridger slip. You put first slip, then after some time you put another slip, and then actually take out the second one by the comb. Then the both slips are exposed, and then we have got this kind of effect. This is actually ridger slipware from Kutch region, and very few certs you will get in Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, or any other site of the Indus Valley in India. These 2 things are actually confined to this Kutch region very much. These are the same thing. There are different territories. Then we just further west of this, in Gulf, there is a small settlement just actually north of the Kandla port. This small settlement, 65 meter by 65 meter, but unfortunately it is actually now under an industrial complex, and we have lost this site. Then opposite to the Sikarpur, there is a site known as Bagasra, Goladhoro. This is from this Bachao Sevakya to further west near Bundra. There is a site Navi Nal. This Navi Nal actually has been actually extensive work done by Rajesh from Kerala, Professor Rajesh from Kerala, and he has found all the material from this region. It is very close to Mundra. This is the Mundra port here. That is actually, you can see the modern ports are also very nearby of the ancient settlement. Then we go to the other side of the Gulf, the southern side of the Gulf. We have got the Bagsara up to just 25 kilometers from the Sikarpur. Then from Bagsara to 20 kilometers, we have got Kuntasi, and from Kuntasi, we have got a major site in Nageshwar near Dwarika. In between, there are very small sites. And this is the Bagsara. You can see the mound here. And from mound, you can see the run. This is the Gulf of Kutch. Still there, actually, the salt manufacturing is still there. Salt pans are there. And this is the site here in this site. It is again very small, 2 hectares only. And again, deposit is 7 meters. It is urban, and again that post-urban. And this is the view from the top of the mound. You can see this is the mound here. This is the mound here, this one. This is the actually location of the settlement planning here. And from here you can actually, it is actually connected with the Gulf. Now the Gulf is actually again receding because the water desiccation. But during Harappan time, it was well connected with the Gulf. this Gulf was actually main stream for the trade during the Harappan time. This locational actually geography indicate all these sites were engaged in the maritime trade. And this is actually the settlement inside this, you can see. And there are the various workshops. There is shell workshop, fence workshop, then bead workshop, and pottery kilns are outside the town. And you can see this is the contour. The top contour is 14 meter here, and the deposit is 7 meter. So it means the ground from the run is 7 meter from the sea level. That is the, and these are the actually the workshop making the fians. Very large quantity of this material has been recovered from there. Then we have got this material. This is the all raw material actually from different sources they are collecting and then storing and making the finished product at this site, and then actually again supplying to the another center. Here, this is again from Buxara. You can see this cell, the large quantity of cell they have stored, and then they have got finished product also. There are several ladles, the bangles, and so many material things of that made of this cell. You can see there. So this was the whole Gulf area. It was full of this industry because Gulf of Kutch is known for its shell actually. Those availability of the cells, the sea cells, particularly this Gulf up to the Sankhodar, that is the Dwarika, that island is known as a Sankhodar. Means it was a source of all these cells for their even food and also manufacturing these ornaments also. And this again further west of this Buxara in the southern shore of this Gulf, we have got another side. This is the Kuntasi. This was excavated by the Deccan College. You can see it is along this river, a small river, and this river is actually, this is the village here. This is river. It is linked to the Gulf. Today, the Naulakhi port of the Gujarat is located here. The Jamsawa, actually Jamnagar, built this port in 19th century. Here, this Naulakhi port. You can see this is a coincidence. We are getting major port now, the modern time, just near the old settlement of the Harappan time, which are actually the 4 to 10 kilometers in the inland actually, because there was a sufficient water in the Gulf. It actually indicated that there was a water in the Gulf at that time. And this is there actually the excavator found a ramp. There is a ramp here. This ramp actually they believe this was the for the docking of these boats, to anchoring of the boats. This is known as in Gujarat as Dhakko, a small ramp along the coast or the shore, and then you can actually pull or push the small boats from here. And they found a tower also. They believe it was a watchtower, and then there is a platform which was serving for uploading and the unloading of the material and storing purpose. So these are the actually settlement on the Gulf. And then there is a single site in the Ahmedabad district, that is the Gulf of Khambat. That is Lothal, which was excavated in 1953 by Dr. S.R. Rao. And this was the only known site during that time. And this is the Lothal. This is the river. The river is the Bhogao River, which is linked with the Nal Sarovar, and then finally it was actually once linked with the Little Run of Kutch, that I will actually tell you later. And this is the excavation. They have found a dock in the east, and then there is a warehouse here, and then a lower town or industrial area in the northwest area, northeast area. This was the Lothal. And this is the same excavator site. You can see this is the east in west you have got the warehouse and the lower town in the north, and there are the different blocks of the sites. And this is the dock, Lothal dock, which is actually you can see a brick structure, and it was linked with the Bhogao river from the north. And then there is a small wicket gate to close it and to release the water. Actually, when there is excess water, you can release the water from this small wicket gate. And then these are some anchors, the rounded stone with a hole in the center. They are believed to be the anchoring stone, and a boat model, terracotta model, was also reported from the Lothal. And this was the warehouse near the dock. And here actually they found some more than 60 ceilings that again they were opening, keeping the goods here and then opening those parcel, and that's why we are getting those ceiling, the clay ceiling from this region. And that this was the actually again system in Lothal. These are again the other details of Lothal. We have got that Acropolis area, the warehouse, and then dock in the east. And this was the Lothal actually, what Raos have actually reconstructed this. This is the river coming from the north. It is going to the south to the Gulf of Cambay, and then one channel was brought to this dock with which was bringing water inside, and this was controlling the water table in the dock. And then the material was actually unloaded and stored in the warehouse. This was the actually function of the mature Harappan times. Actually, I am not going to the cultural phases and all this in detail, but the settlements, location, and what was found major thing. Then we have got settlement on the Saurashtra coast, but most of the settlements Saurashtra coast belongs to the late Harappan period or the Parvas culture sites, which were actually already there in the pre-Harappan time. These are the sites around Somnath and around Bhavnagar. Only few late Harappan sites have been reported from Porbandar and some Kodinari area by the NIO, National Institute of Oceanography. But they are all very small hamlets, maybe belonging to fishing communities. No urban character is visible. That's why it is very difficult to say they were the part of the trade network of the Harappan time. Now, I will come to this actually about the trade. There is actually this Indus was known as the Maluha in the text of the Akkadian text. It is known as the Maluha, and they boast, actually Sargon Akkad boast that there are actually ships from the Dilmun, ships from Magan, and ships from Maluha, and he made tie up alongside the quay of Akkad. So this is actually the three regions east of the Mesopotamia, and first was Dilmun, second was Magan, and third was Maluha. Means the farther east region was the Maluha, and they come in the same this series also. This Dilmun, Magan, and Maluha, or Maluha, Magan, and Dilmun. They actually indicate these are the countries, three regions beyond the actually the east of the Mesopotamia. And there are so many actually references about the material actually imported from the Maluha. Maluha has been actually, as per the fossil say Maluha, it has proved to be more difficult to determine. Most scholars now assume it to have been the area which is associated with the Harappan civilization. The basis for this judgment seems to rest primarily on 5 historical observations and 1 implication. He says that there are so many Akkadian seals attribute to a translator of the Maluhan language. This depiction is also there. And then if the ordering of the place name, Gilmun, Magan, Malua, and the rivers has historical value, it would seem to indicate that Malua is somewhere beyond the, where to the east beyond Magan, that is Oman. The land of the Indus civilization are therefore a logical place to be associated with the Maluha. This is actually, there are several evidences to identify actually the Indus region with the Maluha, and there is Harappan material in Mesopotamia, some of the Indus script, and some Mesopotamian material in Harappan site. It is actually very few material of the Mesopotamian origin is found in the Harappan sites, whereas a large quantity of Harappan material has been actually recovered from the sites in the Mesopotamia. Then again, many sites in Oman and the Gulf, which are actually with the fully in maritime environment, support the notion that the Harappan civilization when maritime contact with the Mesopotamia. The product mentioned in the texts that are said to come from Maluha do not contradict and associate with the ancient India. Actually, the product which are actually mentioned, they originate from India. That's why there is no actually dispute to believe that Maluha is not the Indus region. These actually 5 observations leads to an implication. If Maluha was not associated with the Harappan civilization, including the Kuli complex, then the Indus Valley apparently not mentioned in the cuneiform documents. This would present an historical situation given the presence of more than trivial amount of the Harappan material culture both in Mesopotamia and the Gulf. Actually, if you deny Maluha was not a country, then where from that Harappan material came to the Mesopotamian site? That is a big question. That's why most of the scholars now, archaeologists actually believe that it was the actually Indus region. Now you come, we have these sites here in Gujarat. We have got Lothal, we have got Kanmir, we have got Dholavira, then we have got site on the Gulf of Kutch, then we have site on the shore of the Rann. And then this is actually from Kori Creek, you go to the coast. They were following the coast. And they were joined, the cargo was joined from the Indus Valley as per the canoer, Mark Canoer, the boats from this river valley, those sites which were located on the coast of the Indus, they were actually connected to the sea with the small boats, the flat bottom boats. They were reaching to these sites because they are in this deltaic region also. There are some sites, and then this was going to along the coast, reaching to the Makran coast. There is one Indus site, that is the Sutkanjandor. Sokta Ko is also very nearby, and then it was reaching to the Oman area, and then Bahrain, and finally maybe some middleman was taking them to the Mesopotamia in the present day Iraq area. So this is actually the route that from the Gujarat to the Indus deltaic region, and then you have the Makran coast, then Oman, then Bahrain to this. And most of these sites, the Oman, Bahrain, and Mesopotamia, yielded a lot of Indus Valley material. Even it is believed there was settlement of the Harappan in the Mesopotamia and at the Oman also, because there are many things which have been actually reported from this area. These are the trades which during the second half of the 3rd millennium BCE, Indus Mesopotamia relation developed and continued until the decline of the Harappan civilization around 1900 BCE. Indus seals depicting sea-going vessels also show depiction of land-finding birds, that is the Saka. These seals are datable to 25 to 1900 BCE. Lothal, a port town of Indus time, has yielded seals of Persian Gulf area, whereas several Indus seals with Harappan script have also been found in Mesopotamia, particularly in Ur, Babylon, and Kish, and also from sites in Oman, Bahrain. Akkadian inscriptions record timber, carnelian, and ivory being imported from Meluha. The etched carnelian bead had been found from the royal cemetery dating to first dynasty of Ur, that is 2600 BC to 2500 BCE, were probably imported from the Indus Valley. The Akkadian inscription record import of wood, gold, copper, tin slaves of the lapis lazuli, refined silver and pure Meluha carnelian, ivory, wood furniture comprising wooden chair, wooden table, grains, a bird of Malwa, and many other animals like dog and cat also. So this was actually the imported item from Maluha by the Mesopotamia and found. Then we come to the another aspect of this, the trade. In Gujarat, we have got this black slipped jar. There is a pot, a large vessel, which is known as black slipped jar with a pointed base. And it has several coastal Harappan sites in Saurashtra, and Kutch has yielded this pottery, this jar, which is known the black silk jar, and it has been reported from the Baksara, Sikarpur, and Dholavira, and Lothal as well also. This is the pottery which has been found in Oman in large quantity actually, and there are the recent excavation carried out by the Indians, even the Japanese and other, and they found this vessel which is actually has origin in the Indus Valley, and mostly in the Gujarat region. It is actually found at these sites, and but interestingly, all Harappan sites do not have this pottery. This vessel is not available in all Harappan sites. That also indicate it was actually for a special purpose vessels, which was actually used in the export only, export or import only. That's why it is not available on all the sites. It is actually in the selected location, which are actually mostly these are all the coastal area. This Bagsara, I told you, Sikarpur and Dholavira and Lothal, they are all coastal sites. At the same this vessel is available in those sites only. Then these are actually this pottery, the black silk jar, the Harappan overseas transportation vessel found from several sites in Oman. These are actually from Mohenjo-daro, then this is from Sikarpur, then this is Bagsara. These are the sites actually found from the Indian side, but also in Oman also. It has got a pointed base, you can see this pointed, and a narrow neck, very narrow neck here, and then the very narrow mouth also. This was actually a vessel which was actually used for the transportation of the liquid, actually mostly the liquid material, and this is from the actual size of the pot from the Mohenjo-daro. And these are the pot again. These are the Harappan actually cooking vessels. These are all actually reported from the Oman. In the recent excavation, the same pottery, which actually is a characteristic actually pottery type of Indus Valley. This is found in Oman. It means some of the Harappans were actually settled there, and they were actually managing the trade between the Gulf countries and the Indus Valley, that is the Meluha. This is actually how they were putting those vessels. Actually, this is a socketed base. You can see there are the holes, and then it was transported this way, this pottery from the Harappan region to Mesopotamia. Then we come to what was the role of the Great Run of Kutch. You can see this is the Great Run of Kutch. This area, this greenish one, this is Little Run of Kutch. And then there is a Nal over here. It was linked to the Khambat, Gulf of Khambat. And this creek, Kori Creek, was the entry point, or maybe further west somewhere. And the Indus was once falling in the Great Run. There was a Eastern Nara, and then there was a Saraswati River also. We were falling in the Great Run of Kutch. This is the location of the run. And then there are historical record that Great Run was actually a marine gulf during the time of Alexander the Great. When he was returning, this navy was actually returned from this Indus River to this sea. And then the geologists also found that run actually has emerged from marine transgression with recession of the sea. And then we have got the present situation after 1819, when a big earthquake jolted the whole region, and the run was uplifted somewhere near the Khawda. And then the Periplus gave the very accurate description of the run. He says, beyond the river Sindhu, there is another gulf not navigable running in towards the north. It is called Irinon. Its parts are called separately the small gulf and the great gulf. In both parts, the water is shallow with shifting sand banks occurring continually and a great way from shore. So that very often when the shore is not even in sight, ships run aground. And if they attempt to hold their course, they are wrecked. A promontory stand out from this gulf, curving around from Irinon toward the east, then south, then west, and enclosing the gulf called Baraka, that is Dwarka, which contains 7 islands. So this is the same route I told you, from the Junikuran to Dholavira to Sikarpur to this Baksara, Kuntasi, Nageshwar. So this was the Harappan location of the Harappan site. And then during our excavation during Kanmer, actually we made some simulation. Actually the run, if it is 1 meter, actually the wall, the sea level is increased, how much water will actually enter the run, what will be the situation. You can see this is the 1 meter plus 1 meter simulation, and this is plus 3 meter. So it become actually island, this whole area. And here is a 42 kilometer Nal lake. It is not shown here, but it is actually linked with this gulf. So these are the some area actually, and this geologist indicate that run was about 4 meter deep during the Harappan time. It is actually siltation took place after the transgression of this regression of this sea. Then finally, as per the evidence indicate the Lothal, if you take this Arabian Sea coast, you don't have any mature Harappan site, neither a urban settlement here. You have got a small hamlets or the very small villages, and then this route, if you measure it, it is 750 kilometers approximately. If you go straight, but you take this route through the Nal. Actually, this is a Nal Sarovar. It is a wet area, Ramsar site. Actually, I think this is some 42 kilometers long. And then see the run. This run is actually coming down, and then this is actually linked to this lake. There is only 30 kilometers actually blockade here. That requires some research. Then from Lothal, this make a trade network. You see, they were collecting material from Lothal as far south in Lothal. And then there is a chain of settlement, the fortified settlement on the southern shore of the Gulf of Kutch. And we have got a chain, a series of the town, the fortified town. on the southern shore of the Kutch and the northern shore of the Kutch. This makes actually very logical. Like Harappan used this actually channel for their maritime trade during that, because it makes the journey very safe, because in the high sea you have got a lot of turbulence, winds and so many things, and whether Harappan were prepared for such voyages or not, that is again a question. But this corridor seems to be very safe. In the 4 meter or 5 meter column of water is sufficient for the large boat to ply, and then it was going to along this coast to the Gulf of the Persian Gulf. Thank you. This is the.
Thank you very much. Can you let me just stop your? Yeah, this is fine.
Yeah.
So we can actually have a session. Fascinating. There are so many questions. Some of the material that you showed, I'm seeing for the first time.
So,
and I'm fortunate that I visited Lothal as well as Dholavira.
yeah.
We, as a group of people from Tamil Heritage site, Tamil Heritage Trust, visited these two sites. Of course, I would say my understanding was much less about the Indus Valley sites at that time. It's more than 10 years back now. My first question is, how is a coastal Harappan site different from an inland Harappan site in its structure, material found, and so on?
Yeah. Actually, there are fortified settlements in the interior region also, in inland also.
Right.
But these 7 sites I have shown you, these 9 sites, they are excavated and they are actually very well planned settlement, very secured, and all, as I told you, linked with the Gulf through a river channel. So they are very close to the river, 3 to 4 kilometers or maximum 6 kilometers away from the Gulf. Other side, in the hinterland or in the central part of Kutch or Saurashtra, most of they are the rural settlements. There are actually fortification, but not of this volume. This kind of fortification are not available. And the deposit, the nature of deposit is also very less, because you will get in the urban area more actually this sedimentation, deposit, you can get more litters and all these things, more use of this thing. But in rural area, you will not get that kind of growth of the settlement. So we don't have this much big settlement inside. There are very few, no doubt. There are very few, but not much.
Okay. No, wait. So are you saying that the coastal settlements are urban?
Yeah, they are urban, pure urban settlement, or a special kind of like SAGE. You can say a special economic zone for the Harappan. This is the actually.
Sorry, I'm a little on a shock.
Yeah.
Because our understanding, at least my understanding, was that the river defined the settlements, right? Which I understand. But now you are saying, a coastal settlement has a special place in IVC, in the Harappan settlement, above any place inside, because it's far better in its structuring.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Actually, why they will put the actually settlement near the river? Because they are interacting through the Gulf. Or there is a communication through the Gulf. That is one point. Then, as I told you, this is a general, actually, it is all evidence is there. Most of the mature Indus site, they are actually surrounding Kutch, that Gulf, and the north part of the Saurashtra. That is the southern shore of Gulf of Kutch.
Okay.
And beyond that, you have got that the Sorat Harappan, which is a rural culture. The makeup of the culture is a rural. They are actually engaged in agriculture, in dairy, and in other they are providing resources to the Harappan. Harappan actually providing some finished goods to them in exchange.
Okay.
Yeah. And then gradually, as I told you, at the end, during the third stage, the Harappans are not visible, only the Sorat elements are visible.
Okay.
But by that time, Sorat also became master in that craftsmanship.
Okay. No, I now have to understand a lot more, because this is quite there's so much more that I need to process.
This is very interesting actually. Actually, you just see this. This is actually even Rao Sahab, when he studied Rothal, he has reported that it was originally a place of indigenous people.
Okay.
And they were using the micaceous redware.
Okay.
And then it was actually they came into the contact of the Harappan, and the Harappan helped them to develop the town. And the Harappan actually getting the raw material from the across the Gulf of Cambay, from the Bharuch region, that all Gomed, all this agate, carnelian, chalcedony, it comes from the Bharuch region.
Okay.
Yeah, even Cambay, this Gulf of Khambat is still today, you will get only the craftsmen of this semi-precious stone in the Cambay, Gulf of Cambay. That's why Lothal became a center of that.
Okay. Yeah. Fine. No, I really have to read up a lot more and get a better understanding. Thank you. I don't want to hold this conversation only to the two of us. I have few questions.
Yeah, please.
Kishore has two questions. I'll combine both.
Yeah.
One is, how much of Ganeriwala has been excavated? We don't seem to know much about it. So that's one of his questions. The second is, have the sand dunes negatively impacted the excavation? If yes, how?
Ganeriwala or this, which side? That is in Pakistan.
Yeah. Kishore is here. Kishore, you can add.
Yeah.
Yes, the same site in Pakistan.
Yeah. Ganeriwala has not been excavated. Some actually trial trenching they have done, but they know the size of the site. It is considered actually fourth largest site, and after that only the Dholavira comes.
Okay.
But Dholavira is the best preserved site at present. You can have the complete idea of the Harappan town planning. But Ganeriwala and there are another site also of this larger site. They are not actually excavated. In Pakistan, they don't have much resources. Only the excavation is done by the American or the Italian. They are doing but due to all the disturbance actually since last 10 years, there is not much work is being done. Okay. But that is very promising sites, Ganeriwala. Yeah.
There are two questions from Sandeep Saxena.
Yeah.
One is, any ASI work on the nearby marine archaeology sites closer to the Indus sites? The second is any link to painted greyware and black and redware cultures and the Harappan cultures.
ASI has actually excavated so many sites. Like the Surkota was excavated ASI, Dholavira by ASI, Junipuran by ASI. Then there is a Khir Sara in the Western Kutch, that is in the hinterland, that is also by ASI.
No, I guess he's talking about nearby marine archaeology, which means, I guess, underwater.
No. Underwater, actually, they have done some Dwarika only, but Dwarika has not yielded the Harappan material. Okay. Bet Dwarika is actually the late Harappan material. The Rao Sahab found, and that is there actually. That pottery is available. Bet Dwarika is more ancient than the Dwarika, as per the evidence available today. That is dated to 1500 BCE. whereas
Okay.
Dwarika is dated to 2nd century BC to 2nd century AD, beginning of Dwarika. But the underwater is not done actually after that. Yeah.
So I think a lot of our followers in Tamil Nadu
Yeah.
very interested in your views on the Kidadi excavations that are happening here.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you are closely following it or
Yeah. I have seen that.
right.
Yeah.
Is there any connection that you can see of the various material that have been unearthed here to any of the Harappan material, the entire large set of, we have not found any seals here, that much I am very certain.
Yeah.
But other than that, all the pottery ware and any other ornaments of various kinds, do you see any connection, any relation?
Actually, I have not seen closely the Kalari material, but one point is clear, very much clear in my mind. Actually, the decline of the Harappan actually led to the mass migration in different direction, because once the urban system collapsed, maybe due to the long drought, a spell of drought, a long phase, so most of the actually population they disturbed. They were uprooted from their actually settlements, their villages, and they went to the different direction.
Okay.
That is a major actually mass migration of the prehistoric time.
Okay.
And in my view, that led to the integration of Indian culture also. Because people from different region are meeting at some area outside of their geography.
Okay.
And then they are actually starting afresh. That's why you will find some elements of Harappan culture in every culture of the post Harappan culture. Post urban phase culture, you may get those elements somewhere. Actually, some people carried some traits, some people carried another traits. That way, this was the, I think, first integration of India. That the decline also led to the integration, because people are moving to in different groups, and then most of them are assembling or meeting in a different geography, in a different water source, and then again started afresh.
Okay.
Coming from different region. So that led to actually a new culture, I think. I think that seems to be one logical explanation for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
There is a question from Srividya Jayakumar.
Yeah.
You said the current day ports in Gujarat have connection to some ports in the pre-Christian era. So she wants to know, are there any ports of ancient times which have still some kind of continuity that's going on now?
Actually, in Gujarat, you have the Periplus mentioned also some of the areas like
Right.
this Baraka also. Then it says the Berigaja. Then there is the Kamnoi also, this Kamrej near Surat.
Right.
And then we have got
we did have a lecture yesterday which focused on all these.
All these. And then there is the heart of the excavated ESI, that is Astambakram.
Okay.
That is also mentioned by the Periplus. These are the actually, and then we have got the Jataka story also, the Suparak Jatak. Then we have got the Bharukach Jatak also, where the Buddha is actually sailing the boat, saving the life of the people. So these are the actually their things. And then there is a connection of the Sokotra and Gujarat also, as actually maybe yesterday Professor Himanshu Parwari told.
Yes.
There are Gujarati inscription in actually Sokotra.
Okay.
The Brahmi inscription, which actually shows the style of the Gujarati style of the Brahmi.
Okay.
So that is the link actually. Is there.
Okay. So, one last question.
Yes, please.
From Gomati Venkateshwar.
Yeah.
Was there any shipbuilding activity at Lothal during any of the 3 periods of IVC? Or did Lothal, as it was discovered as a dry dock, mean that boats or ships were being built? I think part of it is cut there.
Yeah. It
No,
is actually,
yeah, just that any evidence of
it
shipbuilding.
is actually very difficult question. But actually in Kanmer, we have found some wood which was actually brought from the Konkan region. And that wood actually is used for the boat building.
Okay.
As this paleobotanist told us, that this actually is found in the Konkan region, and then it was brought from the Konkan to Kanmer in Kutch. So similarly, actually, boat building were definitely going on, but not at this scale which we are considering today. There are small boat region. There are the Porbandar also. You have got Mandvi also, and the making of the port also was actually is not during the historical time. We don't have got that port. It has some simple ramps which are in Gujarati known dhakko. Dhakko means you push it and it will go to the water.
Okay.
Like that. And that similar thing actually I have seen in Bujang Valley in the Malaysia also. Along the where actually the Pallava and the other went there. They have also a brick laid ramp actually. And they are actually putting the boat and anchoring it here.
Okay.
Yeah.
One last question from me. Yeah. Now you have, I mean, as you showed right through the coastline.
Yeah.
All along the current Gujarat coastline, then the Pakistani coastline, and all the way into the Gulf coastline.
Yeah.
We have the IVC settlement.
Yeah.
Different points in time.
Yeah.
In terms of how, I mean, what was the level of the sophistication in the naval or the ship movement across the coast? Any idea in terms of the size of them, whether there was a people movement continuously, only trade? Is there anything that we can sort of cull from, I know very limited material we have got.
It is very difficult question actually. All archaeologists are actually searching for those evidences.
Right.
And even some of the archaeologists do not believe that Malua was the Indus region, But
let us say that, let's not call it Meluha, let us not call it anything.
Yeah.
But there is so much, I mean, we know the commonality of bricks across the place.
Yeah, we have, yes.
We have so much of, there has to be connection.
Yeah.
Inland travel would have been
even
extremely
the
difficult.
Akkadian text mentioned that wood ships are coming from Malua.
Okay.
It is there.
Right.
Wooden furniture.
Now, the only difficulty there is, what do we mean by Meluha? Right? Is it one location, one region, sub-region?
It was definitely not one location. I don't suppose it. I told you, in Gujarat, Dholavira was a major site.
Right.
It would have been the international port.
Okay.
They were controlling all the trade, at least external trade.
Okay.
Internal trade was controlled by these forts.
Okay.
They were interacting with the people in the inter-region.
Okay.
But for this export to the international export, a large settlement like Dholavira, they were capable. They had infrastructure.
Right.
They can actually afford a ship also.
Okay.
So they were actually, that's why they were actually, it was one central actually, port, which were collecting all the goods from the Sindh also, and from this mainland Gujarat also, and then it was interacting with the international. Okay. Otherwise, they believe actually Kuli hills, the Baluchistan hills, they were Maluha, but it is actually discarded because Baluchistan is also contemporary of the Harappan.
Correct.
So that's why actually they could have collected the cargo or their material.
Okay.
It was a very big trade network. It cannot be individual actually. Very difficult.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I mean, I have to now go and do a lot of reading up. Obviously, we're not researchers, and we get
please,
popular material to read.
Yeah.
But it has given me a lot of shocking information. So I need to get a better understanding and completely redraw my thinking of the whole IVC Harappan, let's say the lay of the land. It was really a great revelation to me, at least. Let me now invite Kishore to thank you and also introduce the next speaker.
Thank you, Dr. Rawat. I think what makes this topic even more interesting is that despite the presence of so many excavated sites and artifacts that are available, it still springs up a surprise or a mystery whenever we talk about various theories related to the Harappan civilization and this whole topic. I think that is what makes this a lot more intriguing. Thank you for an excellent lecture with some delightful photographs and a lot of insights into your experience in the state archaeology. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we all talk about globalization, right? We live in a globalized world. The world is flat thanks to the trade between different countries around the world. But how did globalization look like when most of us or all of us have not heard about the word globalization? That is the crux of our next topic by Dr. Chhaya Goswami. I would like to introduce the speaker. Dr. Chhaya Goswami specializes in the maritime history of the west coast of India and the Western Indian Ocean. She chiefly researches on trans-regional and trans-oceanic commodity exchange, maritime trading networks, diaspora and community studies, business history, oral history, and violence at sea. She has authored 2 books on the maritime trading linkages of the Kutch that are titled The Call of the Sea Kutchi Traders in Muscat and Zanzibar and Globalization Before Its Time, Gujarati Merchants from the Kutch. She has also co-edited a volume with Professor Edward Alpers titled Trans-Regional Trade and Traders. The Indian History Congress awarded the best paper prizes to 2 of her research papers. In 2015, Indian History Congress also awarded her first book, Pandit Harilal Gupta Best Book Prize. She was an honorary university fellow at Exeter University and a postdoctoral fellow with Warwick University. The University College London UCL Qatar had awarded her a senior visiting fellowship for 2018-2019. University of Glasgow had awarded her a visiting research fellowship. Currently, Dr. Goswami works as a head and assistant professor at the Department of History, S.K. Somaiya College, University of Mumbai. Based upon a diverse range of sources, she is researching and writing on the maritime trade and piracy in the Gulf of Kutch in the early modern period. With these few words, I welcome Dr. Chhaya Goswami.
You have to unmute.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Just a second. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity and the generous introduction. I'll just start sharing the screen so that we are directly on that page where we are going to explore the trading world of the Kutchi traders and their enterprise. I hope the screen is visible, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll just make it a full screen. Once the full screen view comes, I will start talking about the subject.
Yes.
Okay, so the full screen mode is on, and so is my talk. It's about merchants of Kutch in Arabia and East Africa, as we would like to explore about the 18th and 19th century trading age and the business practices then, and how the entire, global age as which we are contesting or talking about, that what is the idea and definition of globalization, and how do we try to put together the entire concept in different paradigms. So one of them is studying the maritime history, especially the Western Indian Ocean. And I would like to talk about number of things which are just a second, huh? So which are very important before we start uh, about before we learn about what Kutchis were doing in the Indian Ocean, right? So I would like to start with the idea of rethinking on the decline of Surat and the rise of ports of the Gulf of Kutch, and through that, my talk then would structure into how the role of the state was important, that is the Raos of Kutch, the Darbar policy, and then my talk will take you down to the some of the commodities which were of high value. I have taken 2 or 3 of them for this talk today, and then case study of the merchants. So this is how I have structured the talk, so that we can go on with the idea of how do we try to put these these trading networks and the heterogeneous merchants who were trying to singularly divert the mercantile traffic to its coast, and how we try to then develop the idea of global age of capitalism. My main argument is on global age of capitalism. So as we move on, first, as I would like to specify to the audience that what does this talk intend to offer. Like, I've consulted, of course, a diverse range of records for this talk, and the same is the case with my books also. So my talk explores maritime trading networks beyond the political boundaries of empires. I'm shortly going to talk about that what was the political scene in which this maritime trading history shapes, right? So it offers an alternative perspective on India's maritime trading history, and also it talks about the how that competition between the trading firms of different origins and more strategic choices which were available to Kutchi merchants is kind of your focused upon. So it wishes, the talk wishes to highlight the dense and complex trading network of Kutch in the transoceanic and global setting. So it is just not the Indian Ocean, as we are trying to focus with that idea of India and the Indian Ocean, but it is also about how other oceanic circularities are also getting entwined. So it is, the talk is also trying to show how the nautical distance was bridged by Kutchi capital and business firms in shaping the global age of capitalism. So this is what exactly I had clarified in the beginning also, that I'm trying to focus on global age of capitalism, which is the nowadays kind of much explored by many of the scholars who are working on the Western Indian Ocean. So let's first move towards the Arabian Sea. Of course, not in the talk right now, but to get an idea that what was happening in this part of the world. Okay, so here the political scene is emerging, a political scene which is taking us to the west coast of Kutch thereafter. So, in the 17th century, the Arabian Sea trade flourished thanks to the control of 3 powerful empires, which we are very familiar with: the Ottoman in Turkey, the Safavids in Iran, and the Mughals in India. And in this backdrop only, the beginning is engrafted upon to know that what was happening to these key seaports which these powers were controlling directly, indirectly, and how they are getting on it. So this was also the time when the European merchant companies established themselves in the Indian Ocean trade, even though the Portuguese had arrived in this world somewhat earlier. Like we all know that Portuguese were the first one to start their geographical exploration via, of course, Cape of Good Hope, and then brushing across the eastern coast of Africa. And then, of course, there are stories about Kanji Malam also. Of Kutch helping the iconic, about iconic travels or voyages of um, Vasco da Gama, right? So I'm not going into that detail because seafaring needs another specialized talk. So in the early 18th century, the Mughal Empire's access to the Arabian seaport was dwindling. This is the setting. This is the backdrop. This is the political scene. As we see this 18th century envelopes into a different kind of a political order, as Mughals were also losing their political efficacy, right? So and then Europeans were in ascendance. That this is the time of transition. Political transition is going on, right? And at that moment, what I'm trying to do is to situate the Kutchi traders and their activities. Of course, with that I mean there are merchants from Surat, there are merchants from Kathiawar, there are merchants from entire west coast. Okay, so it is just not Kutchis, but there are many other players also in this particular entire story of trading and networks. So we have resourceful Kutchi merchants in this backdrop emerging. European rivalry to control the Arabian Sea had, of course, infused, you can see, the political and economic shifts from the last quarter of the 18th century. And in such a backdrop of European rivalry in the Persian Gulf, what happened to the indigenous traders and bankers of the Western India? Were they impacted by this particular kind of a major shift, or were they continuing their activities? This where, of course, they were on their jobs. They minded their business. So well developed institution of commerce and banking, knowledge of the sea, shipping and shipbuilding, a long history of collaborating with the political actors, and access to both maritime and overland trading routes is what is giving them the advantage over the turbulent political times also. Like, of course, there are adversities, right? There are geographical adversities also, ecological also, because resources are scanty, and then these political disturbances. So there are a number of things happening in these in the period under research. And then when you see that Surat is also now somewhere or the other facing problems. Now here I want all of you to pay attention to this idea that, though we come with this idea of Surat's predominance, we all know about that. It was the iconic Mughal port. It was singularly diverting the mercantile traffic to its coast, so as the historiographical attention, because there is a lot of work done on this. Ashindas Gupta's major work is also included in this. Lakshmi Subramaniam has also, Professor Lakshmi Subramaniam has also worked on this. So the ports of the northern Gujarat were silently subscribing and corresponding to the growth story of the maritime Gujarat is what I want to emphasize upon. That just because we are overtly paying attention to Surat so much that we are not looking at what is happening in other parts of Gujarat, especially northwest coast. So Surat undoubtedly, of course, fetched the highest customs, but it was a shared growth story. I emphasize again, and that's why I've kept that particular line also on board. And one of the strongest commercial connections of Surat was with the northern Gujarat, right? And of course, because see, these are all linkages and networks, right? And I mean, Surat cannot alone operate or cannot have its isolated system of working, right? So understanding the interlocking trade potentiality of this salty, marshy, serene region, the Portuguese and the Dutch companies also approached the Bhuj Darbar as the preeminent coast of Western India under the Mughals. So see, we have to now understand this, and we have to join the dots, because we have missed out number of other stories in making of this business history, right, or making of this India's trading history. So see, those people were quite aware about that, where they have to look for the networks and the nodal points or nodes of capitalism and all that, right? But what is happening with our research or our writing is that these gaps, which are not giving us a complete story. It is disjointed. So the exercise should be of joining such dots, right? And then, geopolitically speaking, also Gulf of Kutch was organically connected with Surat's trading activities, right? I mean, whether it's geography or you talk about political linkages, Surat was thickly connected with Kutch and Kathiawar. So if Surat is shown as a front foot player in the commerce of the Arabian Persian Gulf. Why I've put Arabian and Persian Gulf? Because it is contested. Because now the people in Arabia prefer calling it the Arabian Gulf rather than Persian Gulf. So I've put both the terms applied to the Gulf of that region. And the port towns of the Gulf of Kutch were a force behind it. So my argument is that, like if you talk about only Surat and just emphasize on Surat, that is fine. That is fine, because of course Surat was very important. But at the same time, one has to understand which were the other nodes of operative mechanism, right? So here we come across rethinking about the Surat's significance, and the reverses which were experienced by Surat in the Persian Gulf trade do not present a complete mercantile story of Gujarat. For how the northern Gujarat responded to this shift is not noted enough or recorded. Ashin Das Gupta, of course, talks about it, but then he stops at the place where he's talking about northern boon, and thereafter he's not talking about what's happening in that part of Gujarat. So I was lucky enough to get this subject to research, and found out from the archival and number of other sources that though there is, of course, one port is facing the problem as Surat's trade with Persia steeply declined in the 18th century due to wars. Caravans were no longer coming to Bandar Abbas. Mughal imperial control also lost its importance, and then siltation and piracy and number of other issues. Yes, piracy was also a major concern. In my next book, I am trying to focus more on that, and there are interesting stories about the pirates of the Gulf of Kutch also waiting for us to unfold. But let's focus right now on the traders. So what the traders of Kutch were doing, just not traders, I said, of Kutch, but Sindh also were trying to secure a firmer position in the Arabian Gulf, Bombay, Calicut, Cochin, and Calcutta, because they must have been impacted by Surat's decline, gradual decline. Again, let me emphasize on the word gradual decline. It's not totally gone yet, right? But at the same time, the shifts are benefiting others who are from Kutch and Sindh, and they are looking at the Arabian Gulf, because everyone there also is wanting opportunities, right? How do we get into it? See, as I said in this previous slide, I just came back to it to show you that the Arabian Gulf, Bombay, Calicut, Cochin, and Calcutta. So there are other networks also, which I have mentioned in other slides, but this is the knowledge which is helping them. They have this ready. This is called Malamni Pothi, right? And the seafarers' knowledge about the Indian Ocean is so immense, and navigational techniques have been well documented by they themselves who were navigating, right? The Malams, the Nakhudas, or the captain's logbook, whatever you want to try to define that as. But let's move on to other parts of the work where we have to now look at from where the Kutchi traders are plunging into this high sea network. So the ports of Kutch, the Gulf of Kutch especially emerged as a game changer. And once, I mean, that is where, the iconic port of Surat, when it was receding in the margin, the place was quickly taken over by them. Of course, here Mandvi is an important port, the chief port. Of course, there are many other ports. There are 5 major ports in this story also, but we are largely focused on Mandvi because it was an opulent and busy port, carried on considerable trade, inland routes with Pali and other places in Marwar, Sindh, Gujarat, and Jaisalmer. This is hinterland network, right? And then you have by the sea with nearly all the ports of Western India, the Red Sea, Arabian Gulf, eastern coast of Africa, and occasionally as far as Mozambique. But don't forget about Southeast Asia. Also, it is also one of the networks in which they operated. I've not done much of the research, so I'm not talking about on it. I'm just focused on Western Indian Ocean. So the overwhelming bulk of the trade was orbiting around the maritime zones of Bombay and the Gulf of Kutch. Now, this is again uh, uh, the point to be highlighted here, because Bombay and Mandvi were also interconnected, and that interconnectedness also again one has to understand, because we directly jump to from Surat. Bombay's unquestioned prominence was of course based on the east-west orientation of the bulk of India's foreign trade, but we forget Mandvi in this story. So I'm trying to situate Mandvi over here, where we say Bombay in need of a trading partner, and Mandvi involved in the oceanic and overland trade occupied this place. So this significant rise of Mandvi went unnoticed due to the rapid rise of Bombay. And though we are not looking at it, how the Portuguese were looking at Bhuj is what I have got from some of the records, the archival records of the where Portuguese have documented their views about how do they see Kutch. So that itself is giving you the idea of its trade potentiality, which they developed from whatever little they had, or whatever networks through which they were operating. So the land of Kutch is healthy and abundant in supplies, vegetable, meat, fish, all sorts of supplies. Now, of course, this is a part story of it. There are other landscapes which are arid, which are dry, and because of that, there is a greater dependency for the Kutchi merchants to go out. So what the idea is, that these people are building upon the availability of whatever they have it at home, plus through their networks trying to be resourceful and bringing about whatever other commodities they can get hold. Say for example, the grain trade, if you want to talk about, which links them directly to Sindh. And Sindh and Kutch in those days were having porous boundaries, right? Not the boundaries which are frozen now, but in those days those linkages were helping. So that resourcefulness one has to highlight in making of these merchants and their enterprise. So mundane to high value commodity, whatever be, these people knew how to ship it across. And this is where the idea of entrepreneurship develops. I'm coming to that, so I'm not focused right now at this moment. It's better to first now go to the idea of how they are seeing. So yeah, every year some ships come to this port from Cochin, from Muscat. When we had that fortress, like Gombrun, Diu, Sindh, and many Portuguese used to gather here. So this itself, this particular network formation, where Bhuj is involved, the Rao of Kutch is involved, and Mandvi also as a significant port is getting interconnected in this network. So in this particular connectivities, what I see is that my own work, which I started, when I wrote my work, books, I was just focused on 19th century, and I was thinking max to max, mid 18th century, the roots must be the origin. But look at these Portuguese sources, which are taking me to 16th century. This itself is saying the story that when we talk about shared growth story of Surat, how Kutch was already a part of it, right? So the Portuguese, also referred to something very interesting, and this is like know how to talk, from many gentiles from Kutch know how to talk Portuguese in a very clear fashion, and you should explain how you want to reside in that kingdom, needing the necessary privileges for that to be free and exempt of everything. Now this is, of course, this document is talking about, or this particular quote, which I have taken from the archival source, is saying that it is negotiating what they want from Kutch, or what Kutch can offer to them, right? But at the same time, if the Kutchis knew, some of the Kutchis, of course, knew how to communicate with the Portuguese in their own language, itself says that how this multilinguality was also helping them, because of course when they are going to Arabia, they speak in Arabic. When they went to East Africa, Swahili, they till date, many of the Kutchis have hold or have a command over Swahili. They are very fluent in Swahili. So anyway, so let's move to other aspects. Now let's come to the map. I'm talking about Kutch so much, and already Professor Rawat has already, discussed at length about how you see Kutch in map and its geopolitical landscape, and also through archaeological sites. So you have this map. This is very interesting map issued by Rao Desal ji, and it is in Aina Mahal. You can see this map is not a political map as such, but has highlighted what are the speciality of Kutch. This is like you can see here, ships they have shown here in pictorial graph of this map, and then you can see flamingos here, the Khar Gadas, that is uh, of course a very giant species of the card carriers, right? So here, and of course getting extinct also. Anyways, so these are the things which we have to understand, that how this particular mapping must have come to the mind of the Raos. Here is your Mandvi and Mundra port on which I am focused, and this is Gulf of Kutch, and the other side of the Gulf of Kutch is Kathiawar. Okay, so let's move on to the Raos, because I brought them in this map. I have to talk about the Raos who played a predominant role in shaping the political economy of Kutch. We have Rao Khingarji, who was instrumental, but these two were very important, Rao Desalji and Lakpatji. Why? Because first is, one has to know what was the political status of this princely state. It was a vague tributary status of Bhuj, and it was, of course, under the Mughal Empire. But they had negotiated autonomy through Rao Bharmalji, and the autonomy was granted in the sense they were given the right to mint their own currency. And the alliance between the Rajput kings and the trading financing caste was the foundation of the prosperity of the state. And here the Diwan of the state was also an important merchant. So here comes the idea of the Jadeja rulers, who were almost early believers in the Leffer curve. Now, what do you mean by Leffer curve? Leffer curve is something, of course, a modern term, but it talks about that, how state pays and a close attention to increase their revenues, not by increasing their rates of duty or taxes, but by ensuring the total volume of trade increases by giving the opportunities to the populace to contribute. First, you come with state apparatus, state mechanism, state governance, and then expect populace to contribute. So this is where Leffer curve is very important. And the Jadejas were also acutely aware about the political economy of their fiscal measures. And of course, an entrepreneurial culture also existed, because Kachis chiefly operated between the seas and the ocean during the junctions of pre-colonial and colonial system. They controlled the trade networks, intermediate markets, or the bazaars, situated themselves in terms of trust, credit worthiness, and reputation. And then, of course, they continue to focus more on the foreign trade and remittance of Surat and Bombay amidst of asymmetries of power and benefit. Before I come to this particular slide, in between, I think one of the slides got missed, and it is somehow maybe somewhere deleted, but I would like to focus that the Raos of the Kutch were the one who built the ports, who had ordered the construction of building some of the key ports. For example, Rao Khengarji had in circa 1581 ordered the building of Mandvi port, and then Bharmalji, who was the next successor in line, he was the one who negotiated with Jahangir, Emperor Jahangir, to facilitate the pilgrimage to Mecca. And in return, in lieu, he was given this autonomy, which I was talking about, of fiscal autonomy of issuing the coins, right? So the ships were owned by a range of merchants and seafarers. When we come to this particular slide, to know what was that seafaring communities doing, and they were very instrumental for merchants, right? So they were the one who traversed, by Badalas, Nakhwas, and Kharwas. These are the communities which were involved. And there were Hindus as well as Muslim Kharwas. So their community and their ethnographic studies also suggest that what kind of psychogeographic relations they were having with the sea, which is, of course, not much documented, unfortunately. Of course, Professor Lotika Vardarajan had at one point researched on them, and if I am not wrong, Professor Achyutam. So they were the one who were focusing on these Kharwas and Badalas. Later on, of course, anthropological work of Edward Simpson has also focused on it. And the Kutchi shipwrights were also one of those important communities to be included in this seafaring communities group. And they were Vada Sutas, because shipbuilding was important enterprise of Kutch. And you have Vadhas, who were both Hindus as well as of Muslim origin. So here I have just added up some slides to give you the view of how the shipbuilding was constructed. Till date goes on, not just past, but till date. Okay, so these are the pictures. Now, Malamni Pothi, I have already discussed about. The seafarers' navigational techniques were particularly, in a pictographic way, depicted with landmarks, what Professor Himanshu Prabhare spoke about yesterday, because these coastal landmarks were important markers. And that is how the navigational technique was, over the period of time evolved and developed. So that is also an advantage for the merchants. Now you have network formation. So here we have intercoastal network of multiple ports, namely Surat, Mandvi, Bhavnagar, Porbandar, Okha and Dwarka, and then you have umland or hinterland connectivities with production and distribution center of Marwar and Palvi. And then you have, of course, inter-delta trading network with Sindh. So these are the networks. We are just looking at terrestrial form. Then, of course, we have across the sea networks, which we are coming up with in a moment, right? So we have, yeah, I had told you I just forgot this slide, right? So I think this got jumbled up or something. So you have Rao Khengaji, as I was talking about, Rao Bharmal, pilgrimage facilities to the Mughals. Just have a look at it briefly because I have many things to cover. So I'm not going into the details of reading it. But you can see Rao Desalji also playing an important role, Rao Lakpatji also playing the role. And then you have Rao Godji also, who patronized the shipbuilding activities. So at different times, different Jadeja rulers were instrumental in supporting the mercantile activities and seafaring activities. Let's come to the mercantile ethos. Now, when we are talking about these merchants, we have to understand where do we situate them, in which type of understanding we should have, or what kind of understanding we should have about these traders, because most of the times, South Asian entrepreneurial ethos are under the radar, especially with the erroneous representation of being undependable, unscrupulous, or usurious. Now, these are very standard narratives or frameworks in which merchants have been placed. Of course, there is no denying to some of them, and it is not even trying to glorify, or the work is not trying to glorify or even romanticize the idea of how the merchants were important also. But even if we try to see in different ways, the underrated South Asian enterprising group effectively and profitably operated and meshed in presence of the American firms, and their representation was powered by the community dynamics and the network of trust. So let's bring these protagonists. Who are they? And their timeline. So I come to very important Gujarati works, Dungarshi Dharamsi Sampat's work and Gunantrai Acharya. These are two favorite works which I have, my favorite works, which I have focused more on in culling the idea about how they were viewing the merchants in the early 20th century, right? So they set a timeline of India's acquaintance with Africa and also Arabia. Accordingly, from the beginning of the 17th century, the Bhatias, Khojas, Lohanas of Kutch and Kathiawar were frequently they frequently traversed to the coast of Arabia and Africa, and their frequent navigation soon converted East Africa into suburb of Halar. This is very important to understand. And the Indian Ocean, which looked like a narrow strip of an Indian lake. And this particular view of Gunantrai Acharya, when he says a narrow strip of an Indian lake itself, challenges also the counter view of British lake, because of course British paramountcy, empire building activities, we all know, empire building endeavors of theirs, and how they were trying to situate themselves in the Indian Ocean, and colonization thereafter. We talk about British paramountcy and British lake. Those terminologies have been highlighted. But if we look at the Indian Ocean otherwise, or or in other ways or in other sense, then we have Gunvantraya Acharya helping us to understand that how Indian Ocean was, predominantly a kind of an Indian lake where there were Indians who were back having frequent travels or frequent voyages back and forth, right? So here we come across how freely navigated Indian Ocean became a contested space. Of course, Gunvantraya Acharya's work is only taking us to this idea that they were freely navigated Indian Ocean spaces. But then those spaces became, or those water lanes became, a contested space once the European naval footprints claimed their sovereignty over its water lanes. So, and of course, eventually the impression of legality, then closed ocean emerges along with the greater strategies of empire building took shape. Because the Portuguese came with their control idea or controlling idea of courtesans, and the British came up with their idea of protection. We will give you, and they always negotiated this. The study of piracy is showing me how constant negotiations were going on. If we want to know about that, there was if we know so much about 1857 revolt, or we know so much about other type of national movements, but we don't know how the coastal populace was responding to such empire building exercise, and how they were uh, constantly negotiating their own political claims or geopolitical claim. Now, of course, these studies need more microscopic attention, and this is where the talks are important, so that some of the scholars who are taking interest in this kind of study can take it forward, or budding scholars can also think about such research subjects. Anyway, so irrespective of the changing political order, trading operations continue to be robust, energetic, and fluid. This is what again I'm arguing, because highlighting the fluidity, the talk of course concentrates on the interlocking circularities and commercial collaboration. So let's quickly move on to the idea of the beginning, where when we talk about East Africa, first, I'm not taking you people to right now Arabia. First, let's focus on East Africa, because here some of the important networks, global networks, have been formed. So this is by the end of 18th century East Africa, the patterns of investment changed the gear, because two of the major players, as I've already focused on Surat and Diu, because of the Portuguese connection, relegated in the margins, and the one which stayed on was Kathiawar, to which Diu gave a leeway by subleasing the trade. Now, what is the idea of subleasing the trade? Is that, for instance, the port of Porbandar, where the Diu traders would fetch this high value commodity called ivory and offload it on this port. So you can see that how this particular subleasing of the trade is also giving way to emergence of other ports. And of course, in this entire race, the last to join were the Kutchi traders, or you can say port of Mandvi. But one has to understand that they were the one who still stayed for the longest, though they entered last, but they stayed for the longest and financed much of the East African trade, and one has to see how. So our first person whom we have to focus more, he is a political ruler, but political economist also I would like to identify, and that is Syed bin Sultan of Oman. His pro-trade policies really helped, and he was the one who got dual control of Muscat and Zanzibar on advantage, and that particular advantage was capitalized by the Kutchi traders. So here we come to these some of these beautiful maps on Muscat and Zanzibar, showing you how these regions or the literal spaces look like. And to move on, we have the first commodity on which I told you that I have focused, and that is trading ecosystem of ivory. The 19th century ivory trade of East Africa, of course, was a very complex, around that, a very complex network was in, because a distinct but a complex ecosystem also had developed of a diverse range of players fetching the East African ivory from the Central East Africa. There were number of players who were involved, including the capitalists, investors, caravan organizers, porters, slaves, coastal traders, customs men, freighters, stevedore, retailers, artisans, and consumers. But why I put first capitalist? Because they are the one who are financing the entire operation. Without them, the caravan organizing work also wouldn't have taken place. You need porters. If you need even slaves involved in it, you have to have finances for that. And that particular financial backing is given by the Zanzibar based Kutchi merchants. Okay, and all of them played a significant role in their respective intermeshing local, regional, and global trade networks, because here the network is quite wide, quite sprawling, and quite deep and dense. Imagine from Central East Africa to Marwar and Pali. So it is not a small thing which is shaping up here. In this ecosystem, the major players, of course, who interacted across the sea or negotiated at different places were venture capitalists. Venture capitalists because their capital was at stake for a number of years. Caravan organizing was not a simple thing, simple job. It would take scores of players plus years. Like for 4 or 5 years, the entire capital gets blocked. And you never know what would be the result, because the porters may go away with the ivory, and the entire investment gets sabotaged thereafter. So there are risks involved, right? So here we are focused on the idea about how this ecosystem is important in understanding cosmopolitan work culture especially, and then cosmopolitan society of Zanzibar, because it is just not the terminology which is which is a fancy one and trying to give a very jargonized idea or something like that. But no, I mean, the focus is more on how you see the plural spaces are developed around this ivory. In this picture itself, it is showing that you see number of number of players and the groups of people who were involved, and how they were the one who were active operators.
We have lost your audio.
Right.
I think she lost internet connection. I just wait for some time. Kishore, can you come up and until she joins back, talk about the programs tomorrow and the next 3 days briefly?
Sure. You want me to?
Yeah, just the upcoming lectures.
Right.
Can make the announcement that she will join shortly and continue.
Yeah. So while we wait for Dr. Goswami to join back, these are the lectures that we have for the next 5 days. Tomorrow we have from Gujarat, we go to the Malabar coast. We come down south to the Malabar coast. We have Dr. Pius Malaikandathil from the JNU University talking to us about the maritime history of Malabar. And then Dr. Selva Kumar, who's going to talk to us about the ships and watercraft in ancient and medieval India. Following that, for the next 4 days, we have 2 lectures on the influence of religion in the Maritime. So that is on the 8th, we have the Saiva networks. And then on the 9th, we have the spread of Sanskritic Buddhism. And then we have two other lectures on one on the naval histories of early modern India, and one on the Bengal, Odisha, and Andhra coast. So we're going to look at the maritime world of the east coast of India, right? Then, very similar to the trade that we are talking about with the Kachi traders today, we have the story of Indian textile trade from Cairo to Malacca on the 10th. So that is going to be by Dr. Gauri Parimukrishnan. Then there is a lecture focused on South India. This is on Rajendra Chola's naval expeditions by Dr. Y. Subrayulu, who was also the winner of the Venkaya Award last year. And then the last day we have maritime archaeology, a very unique topic, and the politics of piracy and predation in the Indian Ocean by Dr. Lakshmi Subramaniam. So this is the wide range of topics that we have for the next 5 days. As always, it is starting at 5:30, and we should plan to end every day's program by around 8:30. This includes Saturday and Sunday. The timing is same until the 11th of June, which is the Sunday. So that is the program that we have for the rest of the event. I'll stop sharing now and look out to see if Dr. Goswami has joined us. No.
If not, then the two of us can continue to talk about what all has happened yesterday and today. I think that's the, let's just wait. Hopefully, she should be up soon. So in terms of the lectures yesterday, particularly, Kishore, what did you find in particularly of Narasaya's lecture that you found interesting?
I'll start with some very basics. The reference to various port cities around the world. There were a few Indian port cities and their ancient names. I think that was quite. And the references that he made to the, if I remember correctly, it was the Paribadal that he had made.
Primarily, he was talking about Pattinapalai and
Pattinapalai, yes.
So in a larger sense, even up to now, leaving out the current lecture, in the keynote address as well as, of course, the main theme of Narasaya's talk, and today's talk as well, the first one by Dr. Rawat, Periplus of the Erythraean Sea kept coming back again and again. Okay?
Yep.
The current one is of a much later period. We are talking about the 17th, 18th, 19th century period. But if you really look at the three previous lectures,
the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea keeps recurring.
Kind of, though, if you really look at what Dr. Rawat's talk today is the Harappan period, which is good couple of thousand years before the first century CE, which is the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea time period, right? But still, that remains your datum line, because that's the first detailed account of the ports, the ships traveling there. We have our speaker who's just joining. So let's continue to talk until she gets her presentation up. It's so important that a written record, despite the vast amount of excavated material evidence that we have of the Harappan Indus Valley, Sindhu Saraswati civilization, we are only speculating. But I was quite amazed at the kind of understanding that Dr. Rawat gave us today. And I never really could think of the coastal Harappan sites as a big city, international trading port,
by itself.
cosmopolitan, compared to the inland as a mere rural kind of a thing. It's like, if I have to take the Tamil Nadu example, it's Dholavira is your Chennai.
Yeah.
And every other place, including Lothal and other things, as a hinterland Tamil Nadu. And we just, it's like the entire rural Tamil Nadu, and I have to consider every place as rural other than Chennai, producing material for Chennai to export to the rest of the world. And the entire wealth therefore comes to Chennai and gets sort of trickled down to other places.
Right.
Which is a crazy way of looking at those places.
Dr. Goswami, are you back?
No, her video, she has joined. Her video is not up. Her audio is not connected. I don't know what kind of connectivity problem she's having.
Right.
So what were your observations?
Yes, she's back. I can hear her.
Hello.
Yes, I'm back. I think the network fluctuated between.
Yeah, it's okay if you could keep your video off. Even if you could bring your
yes,
the presentation.
That's what I was thinking. That was I was thinking, because normally I do that, but since I was told to just.
Oh, we lost her again.
We lost her again. One of the things I'm intrigued to hear, hopefully she'll cover this in the remaining remaining part of her presentation, as she speaks about how the Kutchi traders. Yeah, she's back again.
No, let's keep talking until Dr. Goswami, we'll wait for you to get your presentation up. Yeah, okay, sure. Let's continue the conversation until then. Let's not have total silence here.
Right.
So yeah, please go ahead and you can add your observation.
Yeah, she spoke about how the port of Surat lost its eminence as the power transfer went from the Mughals to the British, and then the rise of the Kutchi traders. It'll be very intriguing to hear if there was a resurgence of the Surat port when it comes to their share in trading. And was there a rise of the Surat port sometime later? It will be very interesting to hear from her about it.
Yeah, I have a whole set of questions that I have come up with. I don't know if we are going to have the time to discuss all of that.
Right.
Can you bring your presentation up, Dr. Goswami?
Yes. In a while, just a second. It got somewhere lost in this entire exercise, because there were things which I was switching on and switching off just to get this connection. Connection is not stable, but hope you people can hear me.
No, we can certainly hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So just give me a couple of more seconds and I'm coming. Okay. Is the screen visible now?
It's coming up. It's coming up. I think
Yes, yes, yes.
you are now on a
So
low
this is where
bandwidth.
I had, uh, this is where I was. I'm coming back to the main part of capital circulation, and we try to see this network operating, right? So,
Sorry,
you know, the
presentation is,
yes.
sorry, 1 second. The presentation is still not up. I think it is rendering. It's not, I mean, you have gone on a full screen mode, but the screen is blank here at my end.
Okay. See and let me know what is happening with this.
Now
Because
it's up. Yeah. Now
okay, it is showing, right?
showing up. Now, if you could go to full screen mode, maybe we can continue.
Is on full screen. Should I?
Yeah, go to the full screen mode because I can't see. I mean, it is
I
still.
have
Yeah.
already on. I have already switched to the full screen mode. You see that? I can do it.
No, now your audio
Can
is also badly affected.
it? See this? Can't hear anyone. Oh.
Uh,
Shadri?
yeah,
Can
you see, you may have to. I know you are not on a good internet, at least now. But if you could try stopping the sharing and then no, well, we have completely lost her now. I don't know whether it is monsoon. Yeah, she's back.
Hello.
Yeah. If you are finding it difficult to get the presentation, I don't know why it's not appearing correctly. You can at least talk, and we will, we will. Let's see. Let's just. Yeah. Now your presentation is up. If you could go to the full screen mode.
I can email this to you people, and
You
people
could,
can operate.
again, I don't know how quickly this can be done. Please do send it to Shyam.
Sure.
Do
Okay.
you have Shyam's email address?
Yes.
Please do, but in the meantime, if you could
Continue with whatever I have it on screen.
Yeah, I would say that that's a better model.
Yeah, I'm so sorry for this
Oh, that's okay,
inconvenience
that's
because
okay.
I never knew that this is going to happen because my bandwidth is normally stable
Right.
and it never causes problem. Maybe today is the day when
these things happen. That's okay. I mean, let's just continue. Even in this mode, it's fine. Please do continue with. You don't have to go to full screen mode. You can just drag and drop from slide to slide, and then let's just continue with this.
Oh, okay. Just a second. Huh? Okay, as I was on this idea of capital circulation, there was this idea of how do we try to see this terminology of capitalism shaping up or evolving, but rather a fairly well developed one which we see operating here. And in its micro working, the Indian capital in circulation influenced the prices and the speculation. For instance, at the first sight of the Swahili cargoes of ivory, and the speculative bids would be initiated at the I mean at the Mandvi port. Like, they would eagerly wait for these Swahili cargoes to come. And then the bidding exercise was such that whoever spots the Swahili cargo first, which is loaded with ivory, would get the opportunity to determine the prices in the bazaar. So this is what Lieutenant Postans had noted, that the arrival of Swahili cargoes would simply translate into the moments of euphoria and cheers. So the entire that hustle bustle of the port, one can imagine through these idea of capital circulation and commodity circulation, right? And then you have how these particular just not high sea trading, but deep dense jungles of East Africa were also connected in this entire operation, right? So how the finances were managed and how the long distance trade was operated, this is where something some of the important points one has to kind of process. And one has to understand the process of processing of the finances. So these were the often imperative attributes on which the risk appetite and the nature of enterprise were resolute. And these very agents who were connected with the banking monasteries of Manvi shaped the bankless banking business models in East Africa. Rolling long-term credit was their favorite and regular form of transaction. This was well supported by the backup finance from Bombay's money market in form of treasure transfer. And then you have accumulated stored wealth in the form of money and jewels or other valuables. Now this way the entire backup finance from Bombay would get operated, right? And then you have comparatively, if you see the Salem merchants who were equally competing with Salem in the sense New England merchants. I'm talking about East Coast of America, where these merchants also had largely invested in this ivory trade. And comparatively, if you see, they were reluctant to follow this model on which Kachis were operating, because they preferred cash over credit. And this is where American risk appetite and Indian risk appetite can be compared. And those these were the things which were different in their approaches and operating differently. So we see the Americans would follow the network of the Indian counterparts. Even if they were not following Indian model of trading, they have to at least get entry into the networks which were developed already by the Indian by the Kachi traders or the Indian traders, or however you try to identify, and by connecting the central ivory bazaar of Bombay through the local agents. So inspired from the idea on trading ecosystem, I thus argue that in connecting the unconnected, the engrafted capital circulation within the underlying trading processes were the chief power playing factors. And in fact, how across the sea trading enterprises look for the local trading partners, looking for them for to manage their trade flows, enabling them to connect to the stakeholders, involve the supply chain end to end for tracking goods and financing payment. Here we have example of Richard Waters, as just I mentioned about. Richard Waters was first not in favor in collaboration with the Kutchi traders. But then eventually down the line, he was forced to, which is coming up in my other slides. But as he got into it, he was so interested in connecting with Bombay Bazaar. And that's why he had instituted a Parsi agent for himself, so that all the coordination and collaborations can be processed with the Kutchi traders who were involved in this ivory trade. There were complex patterns of capital flows emerged due to the interlocking capital circulations between Marwar, Mandvi, Bombay, and Muscat. And this looks very fragmented landscapes, but their collective material culture consumption had given way to widespread circularities of commodity, credit, and capital. And as we move on, we have to also see that what became a force in the circulation of ivory in the Western Indian Ocean and beyond. So I'm trying to see the circulation of capital from Bombay to East Africa, which was powered by Mandvi-based monasteries. Now comes a very different aspect of ivory trade, which is taking us to the 40 monasteries. These are religious organizations. They are Goswamis, they are Shaivites, and they are Mathadish. They have mutts, and these mutts are getting like Chettiars. You may have heard about Chettiars who were also involved in this trading and banking networks in the South India, right? So giving way to the invisible network, so much so that the British archival correspondence also not mentioning about them. Neither there were official research to identify credit networks, nor the ethnicity of the capital circulation is also found. And this is where one has to understand that where do we situate these Goswamis, about whom we get to know through their own records. And I was lucky enough that I got hold of this, because this becomes a major silence otherwise, and remains unnoticed till the time one gets hold over the monastery archives. Currently not accessible, of course, to the outsider. I am a Goswami, so I got it. So if you want to try it through me, I can help you out. Anyways, to look at this idea, one has to also see how the entire ledger records, which is giving us the idea about that how these finances were flowing and circulated or issued through the hundis or bills of exchange. It appears to be a soft laws, but in effectiveness they were equivalent to hard law, because they were effective in circulation, were honored even in case of insolvency. Documentary evidence of the transactions were reissued, ensuring the secure transactions, ensuring the secure transactions, and this is where I come with the idea of bankless banks. Even if they were not like functioning as banks or showing themselves as banks, but they were working almost like modern day banking. That model worked in East Africa. And in Mandvi, the master ledger of the monastery record where the entries were made, you saw this is the master ledger, in which all the entries of hundis which were issued to Bombay based traders or even Muscat based traders or to East Africa. And I have seen those records, and they talk about Jairam Shivji, about whom I'm going to, if I have time with me, because most of the time has been lost in getting this network and things in place. So, much of the time has gone. So what I'm saying is that this is where, Jairam Shivji comes as an important person who was connected with this Mandvi-based monastery, and how this interconnectedness or interlocking networks were operating. So here we have this record. I have a photocopy of it, which shows that the hundis which were issued to Jairam Shivji and Tharia Topan, who was a Khoja merchant, and what kind of financial transactions were done between them. Plus, you have these records in origin. You can see here, these are the records of Goswamis in monasteries in Mandvi. And then we come to world of artistry, because what is happening with ivory? Right. Again, there are a number of players in this artistry world also, which who are connected with the Central East African ivory, and the umland, which was stretched up to Pali and Marwar Rajputana. So relatively unknown markets, but familiar trade patterns and bazaar economy shaped the earth. And these very regions empowered Mandvi's textile circulation in East Africa for manufacturing of ivory. If we see Mandvi as the distribution center for ivory in the northwest, then the banking monasteries of Mandvi seem to be monopolizing the circulation to the world of artistry. That is why I kept still, that page where we have to talk more about Goswamis, how they are controlling the circulation of what Mandvi merchants are bringing from Central East Africa. So here we have this letter which is issued in circa 1866, speaks about how they had tuned the rules and regulations and resolutions of the contract with the carpenters who eventually would cut the ivory. And here some more specimen of some other letters written by other monasteries, and these monasteries referring the chief monastery of Jnangarh Nirmalgarh as Sarkar. Now, this itself tells you the prowess of this particular bankers and financiers, come controller of Shaivite traditions, right? So here you can say Shaivite parampara, which was kind of in its legacy, was continued by these monasteries. So here the mention of word our Sarkar, one of the letters here, which is I have put it in pink. It is clearly, it is written here, if you can read, Apni Sarkar. Apni Sarkar means our government, right? So here they are referring, they are talking about that how the political positioning was also contested in the coastal networks of Kutch, right? And here the mutt is very important, and the mahant of the chief of the monastery is also an important character or protagonist in the financial transactions, and whose authority is very important. About the mahants, we see Ridgar Goswami, who is also having hold over finances, and the legends goes that once he had sent carts and carts full of koris to help the Rao of Kutch when he needed money. This is what my father's uncle had told me when I spoke to him about Ridgar Goswami, because we are from the same community, and such anecdotal information also helps us to understand that how do we situate these invisible players who played a predominant role, and how much ever it is a legend or the records of hundi transaction which are not accessible to the outsider, attest the fact that it was this monastery which circulated capital in the financial markets of Muscat and Zanzibar. And of course, the of these networks. Hello.
Yeah. We are here. Just please continue.
I'm still. Oh, okay.
I
Because in
think
between,
you have a
there
pretty
was.
longish presentation. So is there any way you can sort of crunch the remaining in the next 10 minutes? Will that be okay?
Yes. No. Now I'm going to jump over, because this is where I wanted to emphasize, and I'm through almost. So, just give me five minutes to conclude all of this.
You have 10 minutes. You please take 10 minutes. It should be okay.
Okay. Because this is about century long net connections which shaped across so it takes a lot of time to
Yeah,
come
that's
through
fine. That's fine. Please,
the
please.
crux of it. Okay. So we have this Ridgiri Prangiri Goswami's photo, which suggests that, I mean, this is again, a photo from Darbar, where he would sit next to Rao. And the Rao would, in any kind of emergency, ask him that, Bawa, give me money. And Bawa is ready with carts and carts of money. So this is where the financial prowess to be emphasized. Then we have, of course, measures and types of ivory, like a kind of, documented in sources like local customs and digest. So they had their own literature also on this. This is again very important understanding, because most of the times we feel that, some of the records, I mean, the merchants were not in the habit of recording their doings, but this is refuting, such sources are refuting that idea. We have to actually search out and find out what kind of information we get through such records. Of course, they are not direct archival records like as we get it in colonial archives, but then these diverse range of unconventional archives are also very important. We have number of players in the artistry world also, Muslim maniaras, and then networks here, which I would like to just keep for a while. We have ivory textile counterflow coming up. This is very important because one has to understand who all were seeking East African ivory and how. So most of the times, if you see India, then you have Europe, then you have America. All of these traders were seeking this much sought after commodity called ivory because of the texture and the nature of it. And then we have idea of textile coming from all of these. So you can imagine how hotly contested market of East Africa was here, because India is also sending its textile, Europe is also, America is also sending. So whose textile is predominant? Of course, in the next slide, you will get to know Americani, which is Americani. It's a Gujarati word, distorted word, Americani, that is from America. And the Salem-based merchants, New England textile was the dominant textile. That doesn't mean that Kutchi textile was not in circulation. Kaniki was also there. There was, in fact, a trade game between Merikani and Kaniki. But Merikani was more very much preferred by the East African consumer. So, even the British and the Germans tried to duplicate it. But, the consumers were very smart. They knew which is the original one and which is the duplicate one. So the cotton textile trade with East Africa in lieu of ivory, cloves, gum copal effected a powerful changes across the transoceanic landscape on both a social and economic level, and it accelerated industrialization of Salem and Bombay. So from here onwards, you see the story of industrialization is also uh, coming across, and which refutes again the idea of our economic history, which is not talking about industrialization in that sense, where, Bombay emerges as the main site of industrialization, its production and consumption giving rise to mill culture and set of commercial relations between workers, employers, consumers that dramatically transformed the commercial space of Bombay. So see, there are a number of things emerging out of it. It's just not one thing, one commodity power play or textile is getting exchanged. It's just not the small time transactions or trading relations shaping up, right? Here we have artistry ecosystem also developing, where you have Bhatia wholesalers, you have Marwaris, you have Sindhis, you have Chudgars of Kanara, you have Charans who are loading it on the bullock carts, you have Sutas, you have Maniaras, the number of players, and then this is the result.
Hello. Hello.
I think we lost her again.
All right. We have almost come to the end of our presentation in terms of time. I think the audience will also be quite
Right.
tired and hungry.
Yeah. So do we call it a day, or?
Yeah, let's just yeah. Please go ahead and come up with the concluding remarks.
Right.
And introduce tomorrow's talk, and then we yeah, go ahead with it.
Right. So like I mentioned sometime back, tomorrow we have two interesting lectures. The first one is on the maritime history of Malabar, where we have Dr. Pius Malekandathil, former professor, Center of Historical Studies, JNU. He's going to talk to us at 5:30. And then at 7 p.m. we have Dr. Silva Kumar talking about the ships and watercraft in ancient and medieval India. So we will meet tomorrow at 5:30. Sorry that we were not able to bring the entire talk to you, the second talk today, due to connectivity issues. But we hope to meet once again at 5:30 p.m. tomorrow. And if you want to figure out where our talks are, you can go to YouTube, Tamil Heritage Trust. You have day 2, day 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way until day 7. The links of all the talks that are available. So all you have to do is go to YouTube, type Tamil Heritage Trust, click on subscribe, and then you can see our past programs and also our upcoming programs. So thank you very much for your participation today, and we hope to see you at 5:30 p.m. tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you all.